everybody probably agrees that the failure to find and fix equipment-related failures leads to more problems in the long run.
Right.
But we tend to just keep not finding and fixing the right things, Ken.
It is. That's we seem to.
Why?
I don't understand it. I
Why?
just don't get it.
He's going to help us with this today.
You're right, though. It seems a very common issue. Almost any time I'm talking to somebody about equipment issues, it's almost always the repeat failures.
Yeah, just replace it.
Just do it again, right?
Yeah.
Just put a new one in, and hopefully it won't happen again. But unfortunately, that doesn't usually seem to happen. So yeah, it's frustrating trying to understand why people keep having the same problems over and over again. And part of the problem is that they think they're doing troubleshooting and root cause analysis, but really they're only doing troubleshooting.
Right.
So what we're going to talk a little bit about today is kind of a little bit of background on Equifactor, and then how Equifactor and Taproot fit together. How those work
Perfectly.
together. They just mesh
They work together
and
perfectly.
get rid of those, hopefully, those repeat failures that we've been seeing.
Yeah,
So that's what we're
absolutely.
saying.
You learn so much more when you do them both.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Otherwise, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it every time. So,
All right. Well, tell us how this works.
yeah, so I guess one thing to kind of think about is, what do people do wrong? What are they, when they are doing
Nothing.
a
We
root
don't
cause
blame
analysis?
people.
Yeah, well, could they be better at what their equipment troubleshooting? And part of the problem that we see a lot is one of the things that you mentioned is that when they see a problem, they just replace the part or put a new piece in and not really understand why the piece failed. Another issue that we oftentimes see is we just kind of use our experience.
Right.
So we say, well, I remember that happened before. That's probably it again. And we try that. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
It's like a temporary Band-Aid.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's just kind of a guess. It's you're guessing on it.
But it fixed it for a little bit.
Sometimes it fixes
Yeah.
it and then it comes back
Yeah.
again. Sometimes we rely on the advice of some experts, like a vendor or a tech manual. We'll go and we'll look at that, and that can help again. But then again, you're relying on that expert's experience,
Right.
and hopefully they're catching everything. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it
Exactly.
doesn't. And then finally, people attempt to use root cause analysis, but they use those really rudimentary tools,
Right.
you know, that might help get you to one answer,
Right.
but it may not be the right answer.
Right.
So we're going to look at what we found is that we need to kind of overcome all of those different problems. And back in the 90s, you know, we had gotten Taproot moving by this point, and it was some thoughts going in how we're going to do this. And Mark Paradise, while he was putting this together, obviously he's the expert on the root cause analysis piece. And he's pretty mechanically inclined too.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know if he'd consider himself to be an equipment troubleshooting expert. You know, he's got some inherent skills, but his real forte is root cause analysis. He had met Heinz Block, and Heinz Block is an equipment
expert.
troubleshooting
Yep.
expert. That's right. So he is all over this, and they got together. They knew each other and they got together. And Heinz inherently, it's really cool when you read some of his papers. He has a great understanding of root cause analysis as a concept, but back then he didn't know Taproot, obviously. And when you're reading through his papers, he's always talking about human performance, but without necessarily having Mark's background in it. So that was back in the 90s. And they got together and realized that they're coming from the same problem from two different directions.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat. They got together and decided that we would use some of Heinz's expertise on equipment troubleshooting and some of Mark's expertise on root cause analysis. And by putting those together, it's an amazing...
Great match.
It's a great match. It's
Yeah.
amazing what you can get out of something like that instead of going halfway in either direction. So that's kind of a little of the background about how this came about. What we did over the past several years, and especially over the past couple of years, is we've tried to modify the Taproot process just a little bit to have a process that's more directly related to equipment troubleshooting. Now, it's not that much different than regular Taproot, but it is an extra piece in there where we're using the Equifactor pieces to help us with evidence collection. So what that looks like now is as you're starting your investigation of an equipment failure, let's say that pump over there failed, you would do just like you would any other Taproot investigation. You start a snap chart,
Yeah.
right? And
Foundation of everything.
it is. It's where all investigations start in Taproot. So you build that snap chart out about how we started the pump and how we installed it and what kind of maintenance we've done and anything about the pump and any of the problems that we've had. And you'll chart it out. But unfortunately, if you stop there with Taproot, you're asking yourself, well, I really need to get a little bit deeper in this. And part of the evidence collection process now, you'll use your vendors' ideas and your experts.
Right.
Those are good starts, but it's really not enough sometimes. And that's where the Equifactor tables come in.
We're always wanting to dig deeper.
We do.
Yeah.
And that's because we get stuck if we don't dig deep enough,
Right.
So we would get to the point where we would find, for example, in our Equifactor tables, we would have a problem with the pump or with the motor, and we'd say that the bearing got too hot. And those tables will really help direct you to those different possible problems that you might have with a bearing.
Yeah, you just continue to the way the tables flow, it's kind of like going through the tree.
It is.
Yeah, so guidance, yeah.
It's almost like an equipment troubleshooting guided tree.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it gives you some great questions to ask, and that's what you're trying to use to fill up your snap chart. So let's say you find that eventually, as you go through those equipment troubleshooting tables, that the bearing overheated because we used the wrong grease, wrong lubricant.
Why would we do that?
Well, see now that unfortunately
Who
most
do I
companies
need to ask?
most companies stop there. They just stop at that
Yeah.
point and they just say, "Yeah, we use the wrong grease. Hey, mechanic, use the
Don't
right
do
grease
that
next
again.
time."
Yeah.
Right? But that's where actually the rest of the Taproot process continues now. So you'll fill out the rest of your snap chart with that data. We used the wrong grease. And then you'll continue to ask those cool Taproot kind of questions about why we use the wrong grease and procedures and how is it labeled and the training of the mechanics. All that stuff goes in there. So instead of just yelling at the mechanics, I have now understood why these really smart, well-trained mechanics made this mistake.
We did a really good video on that not long ago.
Yeah, we did. We can put a link to that or
Yeah,
something in
we
here.
should.
We'll put a link to that video in here.
Kind of human performance and equipment troubleshooting, how they go together, and
Yeah.
that was a really good one.
And I think it steps us right through an example,
Yeah, it
right?
does.
So if what we're talking about here, you'll be able to see another example of how all that works. So, but that's exactly right. So you build that snap chart, and then you'll continue with the rest of the Taproot process, and that's where you'll identify your causal factors, your problems that led to the incident, and then you'll run each of those causal factors through your root cause analysis, and that is where now your human performance piece fits in. That is where we understand now that bearing didn't just fail; it failed because a human tried to do the right thing, or tried to do a good job, or made some kind of a mistake,
Right.
and we've
And
narrowed
there's
it down
probably
to
a
that.
reason for that as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we can dig deep enough in there to get to the human performance issues at that point. And then we can put some really good corrective actions in place to fix that problem and then repair the equipment.
Yeah.
Part of that corrective action will probably be the repair. And what that does for you now is it allows you to eliminate all the way at the beginning the possibility of a repeat failure. And that's where we started out with, was this is probably a repeat failure. So instead of just putting the right grease in it today, and then tomorrow we grease another pump with the wrong grease, we've eliminated the root cause of that equipment failure, and now we've eliminated a repeat failure in the future.
So it's complete now.
It is. You've done the whole thing. You haven't just stopped halfway through the
Yeah.
process. You've used Taproot to identify the equipment issue and then dig deep enough into the human performance problems that you can eliminate those so that you won't make that same mistake again and
Yeah.
have that repeat failure.
People
Yeah.
need both.
You
Companies
got to do
need
both. You got to do both.
And luckily, if you have Taproot software, the Equifactor module is built right in
It is.
to the to the Taproot software, whether it's a low risk incident you're investigating or a major incident you're investigating.
Yep.
Just a little click of a button and you can get that
It's right there.
troubleshooting table right there at your fingertips.
Yep, it's built right in. Yep, it's very, very simple to use in the software.
And you can teach them how to do it.
So it's in the software, but if you just go to a regular Taproot course, a 2-day Taproot course, we don't really touch on it too much. We concentrate more on the human performance stuff and other kinds of errors, but we don't really have time to get into the equipment failures too deep. So what we have done is we've customized Taproot, the training. So we have a 2-day Taproot course that's designed specifically for equipment troubleshooting. So it goes through the full Taproot process, but it includes the Equifactor piece, and the examples use equipment examples instead
Right.
of health and safety or medical examples or something like that. So It's a really good course.
You worked really hard on it.
It took a lot of time and effort, to put that together. It allows you, even if you don't know anything about Taproot, to understand Taproot when you're done and have the Equifactor experience built in.
That's perfect. And also, if you have people who are already trained in Taproot, we can do a little customizing there to add some Equifactor at the end of it. You touch upon it in the 5-day course. We have courses about it at the Summit.
We do. Yep.
And I mean,
yeah, even that 5-day course, if you want more in there, we can customize a 5-day course to concentrate on Equifactor in there. Have a whole day of Equifactor training during the 5-day course. There's a lot of
talk
options.
about a complete course.
That is a cool course.
That one is a very complete course.
That's a fun one to teach. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, we've got a blog article based on this topic that we'll link you to. It also has a video in it, I think,
it
and
does.
we'll make sure you have a link to the video we were talking about earlier. If that wasn't it, I don't remember. We did one where you're customizing your equipment troubleshooting tables.
We had a customized one.
We have a lot of Equifactor videos.
Yeah.
They're excellent because they're very important. You don't want to just be doing these. Downtime is expensive.
It's really expensive. People sometimes look at the cost of the equipment failure, but they kind of forget sometimes, the whole rig is down or the plant is not making widgets right now. And,
absolutely.
And that's expensive when you're down for half a day or a week. That's expensive.
We want to help that to not happen.
Absolutely.
So what you do is go to our website, go to taproot.com. You can go to our courses page. I think we have a link to Equifactor. It explains what's in the courses. You can also just contact us at info@taproot.com. We're happy to help you. We can do a little demo for you if you need to see a demonstration. We love doing that. We love talking to people who aren't that familiar with what we do. We love to have webinars with you. They don't cost anything, and we can show you what Taproot and Equifactor are all about and how they can benefit your program.
Right.
Ken, thank you.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure again. This is
It's
fun.
always a pleasure. You're not in here near enough anymore.
I know. I need to come in more.
You do need to come in more. Well, I want you to please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and ring the now it's the doobly-doo according to Alex, the bell. Please select that so you get notified when we have videos in the future, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. And thank you, and we'll join you back here next week.
Bye-bye.